Camila's mother-in-law showed her true face only after the wedding. It was felt that she did not like me but only tolerated me. Otherwise, my son would turn away from her. Ilona describes the tense relationship with her ex-husband's mother. Monica cannot complain about her in-laws but has many reservations about her husband's siblings. Older brothers and sisters-in-law meddle in everything. Advises the psychologist it is worth setting clear boundaries and not getting involved in intrigues, disputes, and unnecessary quarrels. Camila doesn't like her mother-in-law. Their relationship deteriorated when she gave birth to a daughter. How much did I listen then? The 35-year-old laments. Ilona's mother-in-law contacted her only to have better contact with her son. She focused all her energy on protecting him. He was even more important than her only grandson. Recalls the beginnings of the marriage of the 40-year-old. The mother is the first and most important woman in a man's life, explains change psychologist Zuzana Kedzierska in an interview with Onet. In our culture, it is most often the husband who merges with the wife's family, and the help of the woman's parents is usually considered normal, while when the man's parents interfere in the couple's life, and the man allows it, there is a problem and conflict resulting from the woman's annoyance with the presence of another woman, adds the expert. Monica has nothing to complain about her in-laws, but she has been fighting with her husband's siblings for years. They interfere in everything. They comment on everything. She criticizes the behavior of her husband's family. The psychologist explains why we see the most defects in the partner's family and how to resolve a potential conflict. The perfect family does not exist. And is there a mother-in-law who does not interfere in her children's lives? For a moment, Camila believed it was. But, today, she spits in her own face. I can come to my son's house at any time. I want to emphasize that before we got married, I adored my mother-in-law. My mother was even a little jealous of her. I spent a lot of time at my husband's house. I liked that they are family-friendly and harmonious. The now 35-year-old wife and mother recall the engagement period. This idyllic life, which Camila admired, did not last too long. The first clashes appeared just before the wedding. Her mother-in-law called her much more often, constantly interfering in the organization of the wedding. At the time, I explained to myself that she was just happy, so I turned a blind eye and bravely listened to everything she said. However, much more often, she exceeded my limit of patience. She recalls tense situations. When they handed wedding invitations to her husband's family members, the mother-in-law drew Camila's attention to the outfit. She chastised me for wearing a dress, not black pants. I didn't like it. The more that day I felt terrible and I was just cold. She says about the malice of her husband's mother. The cup of bitterness overflowed when she was late for their wedding. Camila resented her for a long time. It only got worse after the wedding. According to the young wife, only then did her husband's mother shows her true face. I can come to my son's house at any time of the day or night. This is how it looks in the family. I heard one day when I asked them to let us know when they plan to come to us. Needless to say, we both work and often come home after 6 p.m. We will have guests, which is how we organize our time to prepare ourselves. She talks about her mother-in-law's habits. Their relationship deteriorated when Camila welcomed her daughter into the world. How much did I listen then? The young mother laments. Her husband's sister also added her 2 cents. She criticized the recommendations of the pediatrician that I followed and gave golden advice about children without having them. You feed her wrong. You don't try to teach her to walk. You taught her to rock. Now get tired. This is just part of the good advice I heard from her. Then I needed words of support. not constant criticism. She recalls the first months of motherhood. Camila draws attention to one key thing. The harsh words my mother-in-law said to me always came when my husband was not at home. He had witnessed her behavior only once. He was in shock. He saw her as a nice woman. As you can see, even his son may not know his mother. Appearances are deceptive, concludes Camila. I'm relieved we're not a family anymore. When Ilona met her mother-in-law, she immediately suggested they switch to you. After a week, she wrote to her then-partner, "I love you," meaning both of them. I didn't feel good about it. I never felt at ease with her at all. I always felt that although she talks about what a wonderful partner I am. Later a wife for her son, there is a bigger, but somewhere that these declarations of love and sympathy are not sincere. The 40-year-old divorcee recalls the beginnings of her acquaintance with her future mother-in-law. Ilona subconsciously felt that something was wrong. You could sense she did not like me but tolerated me. Otherwise, my son would turn his back on her. And, of course, it was. My mother-in-law contacted me only to have a better relationship with her son. Since she knew that we had some problems in our relationship almost from the beginning of our marriage, she wanted to be close to me all the time as long as I didn't decide to leave. So she concentrated all her energy on protecting him. He was even more critical than her only grandson, she assessed years later. When Ilona's son was born, her mother-in-law couldn't get over how much he reminded her of her only son. As he grew older, she openly questioned Ilona's decisions with him. She commented on what books and clothes she bought and how the world was explained to him. A sentence my son learned from his grandmother was, "What nonsense is your mother talking?" The moment my husband started physically hurting our baby and me, my mother-in-law stood up for him, saying, "I don't believe he's capable of this." Her other words, however, showed that she was well aware of the problem her son had been struggling with for years, says the 40-year-old sadly. What is the biggest regret about the former mother-in-law? I will never forget two things from our relationship. First, seeing the bruises on my hands, she said, "It's good that you put on a sweater with long sleeves. It's not so noticeable." And how after a situation when my husband tore me and my clothes, she said, "Don't tell your parents. They will never forgive him." Today, after the divorce, our relationship is still correct. Still, I am relieved that we are no longer a family, she confesses honestly. You don't fit in with us. Monica, who married Derek 4 years ago, dreams of a similar relief. She loves her husband and feels loved. Derek comes from a large family. He has 3 brothers. They are all older. They have almost adult children. This, according to Monica, significantly influenced her relationship with her husband's family. He was the apple of his parents' eye and his siblings. Especially the eldest brother is very attached to him. In his childhood and youth, he took care of him a lot. He describes the relationships in the family of the 33-year-old husband. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? But that's not the case, adds the young mother after a moment. Monica has nothing to complain about her in-laws, but she has been fighting with her husband's siblings for years. They meddle in everything. They comment on everything, she says irritably. They don't like that we moved to Warsaw. They think we visit our in-laws too rarely. They also don't understand why I'm doing postgraduate studies. She lists the remarks that a young mother and wife have heard about her for years. Even before the wedding, she heard from her husband's brother. "You don't suit us," she recalls in an interview. "My husband's sisters-in-law can add fuel to the fire." 2. They have criticized my outfit many times. They used to say that I wear a lot. I don't look into anyone's wallet. Unfortunately, it's normal in my husband's family, complains Monica. We ran into each other once in a shopping mall. I was having lunch with friends from work. My older brother's wife was watching me closely. During Christmas Eve at her in-laws, she referred to this meeting. She said that, "I think I have a good relationship with the boss because he looked at me like a picture," quotes the words of her husband's sister-in-law Monica. After that, the whole family was speechless. Even the father-in-law, who never interferes, ordered his daughter-in-law to speak frankly with her husband. This innocent comment upset not only Monica but also her husband. They quarreled. The 33-year-old had to explain herself from a business meeting that her husband's sister-in-law interpreted as a date. "They almost broke up my marriage. Fortunately, my husband believed in my version, but it cost me a lot of stress and unnecessary nerves. I hate them for that. Why make someone's life so hard?" asks the irritated married woman, who has since avoided contact with the nosy sister-in-law. Why do we see the most defects in the partner's family? We have learned certain behaviors over the years of being with our family. Through their prism, we evaluate other families, e.g., traditions of celebrating holidays and birthdays, rules for preparing and eating meals, spending evenings, showing love to each other, or expressing emotions. How everything looked in our family seems normal, and we can treat these differences as defects, says psychologist Zuzana Kedzierska about the patterns of behavior we take from our family home. We often forget that every family is different, and each has its own habits and patterns of behavior. We should not judge whether they are better or worse because they are different. What is different and unknown often arouses fear and anxiety in us. Still, each change is associated with a sense of discomfort, which passes with time. The expert explains the basis of conflicts with the partner's family. Mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law. And why do most comments fall on the mother-in-law? A mother is a first and most important woman in a man's life. Of course, this is perfectly normal for a while. From his mother, he learns sensitivity, expressing emotions, warmth, and gentleness, which later translate into his emotionality as a husband and father. However, when a man decides to spend his life with another woman, they live together, start a family with her, and get married, but still puts his mother first, then a problem arises. It is a signal that the man is not yet mentally able to cut himself off from his mother, says the psychologist. Where does possessiveness towards adult children come from? In our culture, it is most often the husband who merges with the wife's family. The help of the woman's parents is usually considered normal. Still, when the man's parents interfere in the couple's life, the man allows it, and there is a problem and conflict resulting from the woman's annoyance with the presence of another woman. It is not uncommon for a woman's mother-in-law to be the person she competes with to win a man's heart. The strong bond between mother and son is, of course, mutual, and it is also often mothers who cannot give their beloved son to another woman. Sometimes the close relationship with the son compensates for the lack of connection with the spouse, partner. They feel that when they lose their only son, they will be left alone, which causes them anxiety and fear. Thus, the mother-in-law's defense mechanism is entering the life of the son's family, undermining the confidence of the partner in the feeling that the son deserves more and a better person, and striving at all costs to remain the only, most important woman in the life of his beloved son, explains the expert. What hurts your partner the most? Consulting each decision with the mother, belittling the partner, e.g., in terms of culinary skills. My mother makes better pork chops. In the approach to children. My mother says that it is better not to give your child fruit, so don't do it, or in general knowledge. My mother knows better. She has more experience, and you probably have no idea about it. She lists expert. There is no recipe for creating perfect relationships with your husband, wife's family. But we can avoid certain behaviors. It is worth talking to your partner about possible solutions to the conflict and reconciling with the family member with whom you are in conflict. The worst situation that can happen to us is when the family presses us to choose between the quarreling parties. Setting clear boundaries and not getting drawn into intrigues, disputes, and unnecessary quarrels, sums up Zuzanna Kedzierska.